I'll officially call the meeting to order at 7:02. I won't be the one that ends it, but so we only got a couple things tonight, including going over the entire budget that Joe's going to help us with. The first two things to call to order to get the tidiness out of the way is, the first is, did everyone get the minutes from the last meeting that I sent out literally 10 minutes ago?
Yes.
Yep.
Good.
Does anyone have any problems with the minutes as written?
Yeah, you left out the bombshell.
Well, the bombshell is going to be tonight.
Oh, okay, but, okay, so it was not an item in the,
I
in the
mean,
last meeting.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I didn't know how to put it, but that's okay.
That's
We're
okay.
gonna address it tonight.
All right.
It was put into the meeting agenda that Sherry posted online,
Right,
that we were going to be voting for a new chairperson tonight.
okay.
So it's no surprise to the town. All right, all in favor, anyone opposed to the approving the minutes from the last meeting? Okay,
I'll
all
make a motion to approve them.
right, thanks, Sam. Second, anybody?
A second.
All right. All right, bombshell, does anyone, obviously last meeting I had asked if anyone wanted to put their name up for chairperson, and, people did. Does anyone want to make a nomination to make anyone chairperson?
Yeah, I'll nominate Phil Renzi.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
Second.
Are there any other nominations for a chairperson for the capital planning committee? All right, with that being said, Phil is is up for Phil to take over as the new chairperson for the capital planning committee. All in favor, we have, we're on Zoom, so Frank, yes or no? Frank Conti,
Yes.
Sam Hockenberry,
Yes.
Dan Calori,
Yes.
and assuming that Phil, you can't vote for yourself, and I can't vote, so 3-0. There we go. All right,
Okay.
Phil, congratulations. You're the new chairperson. And just for the record, I plan on attending all the meetings as a resident of Wakefield. There's no better way to put it.
Please do,
I'm a
man.
non-voting member, so I need to resign because I became an employee of the town of Wakefield, for the record.
Okay.
We can
All
use
right,
your wisdom.
Thanks.
Phil, do you want to take over from there?
There's no top hat like Monopoly or something. I'm all good. Just
Wow.
I'll drop it by your house tomorrow.
okay. Yeah, I think you coming to the meetings is great if you can make that work. Dude.
I'm
You
gonna-
have so much knowledge on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
So
really. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. I will be here as much as I can.
yeah. Okay. Joe, you want to pull up the list and want to just? I figured we just do. Why don't we do a run through of the whole list? Because we
You wanna
haven't done
just-
that as a group yet.
You want to touch base really quick on who we confirmed and for what dates?
Oh yeah, you want to do a schedule?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, that's a
Sure.
good idea.
Okay.
So
Thank-
just to let
Yep.
everybody know, so the school department confirmed for the 5th, like we had asked, so it'll be in next week. The fire department and traffic alarm, Captain Hudson, will be in on our meeting the 7th. And I was trying to get the library that night, but they had another thing going on at WCAT. So they're planning on coming in on the meeting of the 12th. As far as my group goes, I could be prepared to go whenever. We usually piggybacked with the schools because we had some overlap in some of the building stuff. But whatever the group thinks, we'll be ready to do. So I could be pretty fluid related to that. There wasn't anything from recreation. We already saw the police chief at some point in time. I'm sure Mr. Mayo might pop in. I don't think there was anybody else that we wanted to talk to, if I can remember right.
What
I
about
think
IT, Joe? Is there any ITs that we need to talk to Todd?
Actually, that Gentech thing is gonna be an IT issue, isn't it?
So I can ask him to come in when the schools come in. That was something that they're proposing. I didn't get any submissions from Todd. So I'm assuming that they just don't have anything for this round. the time and attendance software thing in the IT section, that's actually a request from Steve. I can touch base on that a little bit later. So
That came up a couple of years ago. Dave Whitman was all about that, something about unions not wanting that, right? Didn't we take that off a list a couple years ago?
a little while ago, we did it. I think it wasn't my group that was looking for something new. So the Reader's Digest of this one is we can elaborate when the time comes.
Yeah.
Every different department in town has a different competing, my group does one thing, the school department does the same. The fire department uses another program, PD is using something totally different. So the goal was to get everybody on the same thing. And then Sam will probably understand this one. So what they want to do is use a system that's put out by Munis. Munis does all of our payroll. The clocks should be integrated with it. So like right now, the system that my group uses is punch clocks and there's things like that, but it's a secondary company to the company that we use to actually do all our accounting work. So we want to put it all in one, so everything's talking the same language and everybody across town's doing the same thing. So there's only one platform to learn. But we could get further into that, as we get into, the nitty gritty there.
So Joe, who would bring the security cameras? The school department?
The
Would
school
bring that?
department's proposing that. Yep.
Okay,
So are we done with the police department?
we've heard their,
We're done listening to them.
we've heard their, yeah,
But
we've heard their spiel.
We can always pose questions to them. So, but yeah, Joe, I think if you fit in wherever you think and whatever you think, if you think school's best on the 5th, we could do that, or if there's time tonight, but we got to see.
Yeah.
Up to you.
As we go through this, I'll hit on a couple little things, but I'll plan on kind of like following up to Tim the next time we meet. We'll see how long he goes. They don't have a lot of requests compared to historically. But if for some reason we're running late, maybe I'll take it in sections. I'll go through fleet and buildings and so forth. But I'll plan on going through my thing on the 5th. And then, like I said, if we go super long with him, I can punt and I could either follow up on the 7th, the 12th, whatever we need to do.
Okay. I made you co-host unless you want me to pull up the list, but I figured if you want to go through it, Joe?
I got it right in front of me, so
Okay.
sure.
Is this the same one dated the 9th, or is this another one?
Nope, this is the same exact thing.
Um,
I can't tell what you can see, so do you see
Yeah.
that?
I see the entire spreadsheet. Well,
Down to line 38.
Okay.
Now it's
The
now
one
you're
with the
on
yellow box highlighted on it.
yeah,
yellow
Yeah.
boxes there, yeah.
Do you blow it up at all? Bottom right,
Bottom right. Ah,
Plus.
jeez.
go to the plus sign. There we go.
There we go.
I learned something today.
Yeah, I gave you. I married the guru of Excel shortcuts, so I every now and then she teaches me one, and I'm amazed.
I get so jealous when I watch someone that's super fluent in that.
Mhm.
All right. I'm just gonna go slow. I'll go through everything for the most part. If we want to stop, interrupt, feel free. I think this is probably just be pretty loose. So, just in summary, up top here, this line 11, these are some pre-existing leases. The one thing I noticed after I sent this to you is I don't have the debt schedule included as a secondary tab. So when we finish tonight, any updates that we might do to this, I'll add that to it so you have it and you can see it. Typically, more for you, Sam. I did get your message, Sam. I have something to email you when we're done.
Okay.
Typically, it's broken up into fleet, building related. There's usually, I'll call it like the outdoor component, right? Fields, parks, different things related to that. There's generally an IT section, and then sometimes we'll get random miscellaneous stuff. Most of this is,
What's FPC stand for?
Field, Park, Cemetery. That's just a shortcut for me.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, so I mean that's basically how your categories break down. On my end, things like the water utility, sewer utility, the road work, it's kind of done separate to this because they're their own animals. You know, and a little bit uniquely different there. So in here, most of this is my group. We heard from the police department. The fire department has some stuff in here too. I got a couple of dump trucks. The first one is 2012. I have two smaller vehicles. So number 1004, the 2007 Chevrolet, that's actually used by our engineers. There's all the survey equipment in it with it taken on the job sites and whatnot. 1307 is the highway supervisor's vehicle. And mostly the reason why these two are on there, they're generally, these two don't plow, but the reason is either depreciation or the rust is just starting to get to them at this point in time. They're starting to fall apart. Truck 1315, that's a Ford F350. What that thing does on a day-to-day, we have a tar kettle, for lack of a better term. So that's out with asphalt in it constantly. That's probably the most heavily used vehicle that we have in highway here.
Is that a dumper, Joe? Is that a dump truck?
No, this isn't. This is a 1-ton pickup truck.
Okay.
This doesn't dump.
Oh, yeah, pickup, yep.
Yeah, I'll add the year into that too. I forgot about that. Equipment AL aerial lift. So a little while ago, our buildings division used to actually have a scissor lift to get into some of the high roofs and different things. The one that we had was super old, and we couldn't keep batteries. You know, there was parasitic draws on it and whatnot. So that was retired. We haven't replaced it yet. They put it in this year just to see, not knowing, you know, some of the other things in there. Truck 29. So this is one of our frontline sand and salt trucks. One of the things you'll hear me say probably a couple times through this, we have a particular make and manufacturer of vehicles where we're having electrical issues from the factory. And it's not so much that we can't keep them running. It's a reliability issue. And because it's electric, some of the things we have to do, we have to send them to Bedford to be able to communicate with them to repair them. So we're trying to, in the next couple of years, at least phase the 2 or 3 of those that we have out. We have the same thing going on with our rubbish packer, same manufacturer, same motor, same electrical problem.
Are you talking Ford?
No, these are bigger. These are actually international trucks.
International? I'm surprised you guys haven't been having more problems with those F-150s.
We don't really run a lot of them, and anything that we do run right now, unless it's like over 1.25 tons, everything's gas. So
Yeah.
they've been doing what they need to do.
Yeah. Do these prices for the replacement reflect any trade-in of these old ones you're getting rid of, or are you just representing like what a new one costs?
This is just representing what a new one costs as we go through this. The way that the vehicles used to work when we first started this, to be cliche, like pre-pandemic, we used to just go to the dealer, tell them what we wanted. They'd come look at our stuff. And then within a few months, we generally got what we wanted, you know, so long as we were approved and whatnot. Much like buying your own personal vehicles in some respect, trying to get anybody to commit to a manufacture date or different things like that related to vehicles has been kind of a nightmare. I think the police chief kind of highlighted that a little bit too. So as it gets a little bit closer, so probably the next time, I know I had a meeting on some of these today, I'll have trade prices reflected on this, and I'll have these numbers dialed in to the most accurate that they can be. Right now, think of it as a placeholder. We're in the ballpark, but you know, if anything, they should hope to come down.
Yep.
Especially like with the trash truck. So I can't go and just buy one. Nobody has that. So I need to go to get a cabin chassis price, and then I have to get an upfit price, and then I have to marry the two quotes together to figure out what the total cost is. So I got that this morning. I just want to be sure I'm comfortable with it before I update it. But you'll see that. Let's see. Related to the fire department has a few things in here. Some of them will probably stick here, although generally, you know, the fire pumper WA warrant article. So generally those get voted on separately at town meeting, or they have in the past. I won't speak for Chief Sullivan, but I'm sure that they're working on that. And that might be something that drops out of this. They included their boat. So Deputy Purcell mentioned last year, yeah, it's a 1980, it served him well, but you know, like anything else, after 40 some odd years, it's probably time to, you know, start thinking about replacing it. And then the last thing from my group, the cemetery is looking for a couple of mowers if we can. And then our highway department's looking for a road miller. Basically what that is it scarifies the street, mills out patches so that our paver can go in and follow it. That in a nutshell is your equipment stuff. Like I said, some of these numbers are going to change. And then depending on how, you know, this thing breaks down, there might be some options to finance some things or do some other stuff. So, you know, we can touch into that. I included last time, so this is Chief Scurry's full amount requested. I just put a note there, the comment that he made about the potential reduction. I figured we don't need to cross that bridge yet. And, you know, should the group decide to later, we can make that change at that time. So, buildings, these are generally categorized in the left by building. So 11 Lafayette Street, which is the building right beside Town Hall. My group is seeking some siding there. I will say at this point in time, I believe there are some discussions about what the use of that building might be and whether or not the occupancy might be changed, whether or not the town holds on to it, moves on from it. It's a little bit up in the air. So I'm probably going to recommend that we strike that for now and wait until we get sort of a clearer picture, you know, from the community exactly what's going to happen there before we put any more money into that. The siding's in okay shape now. It's not the roof. When we replaced the roof was in disrepair and it was leaking. I think the siding is okay for now. We'd like to do that once we find out kind of what the vision is there for the time being. So if nobody objects, I'm going to zero this one out right now and take the
Oh,
first.
I have a question. Is there any thought to like rebuilding that, like tearing that building down and rebuilding it, or is it?
I think
still-
yeah, I think anything's on the table. I know just from being around, you know, there have been conversations about, you know, municipal offices, meeting spaces. I know the previous building inspector, if he had his druthers, he probably would have used it or took it down and made an addition to town hall. But again, that's a higher level discussion, I think, than
Right.
where I'm at. But knowing that, you know, is in conversation again, and you know, I'd give the siding a B-, C+. Probably doesn't make sense to put anything into it that's not absolutely necessary until, you know, that's been kind of vetted out and is a plan going forward. So 911 Albion Street, the Cultural Exchange Building. This is another one where the first floor has been converted into a meeting space, art space, what have you. The second floor is a blank canvas for the most part. I know that there might be some desire for Dan McGrath to start utilizing the space, you know, after renovation in, you know, renting it out for like guitar lessons or little, you know, different things, artists, you name it. One of the things that we recognize is if you're looking at the front of the building, the second floor or the top floor, there's 7 square windows there. Before we could do anything upstairs, part of that renovation is going to be, we're going to eventually have to replace every window in there. There's some intermediate ones that are a little bit more custom than this. So this request is just the first bite at the apple, just to try to get ahead of some things there. The Civic Center, solar panels, this is something I tried to pursue through a grant before. It was unsuccessful. I have this in here just as something. So if you go through on the town side, excluding the schools, the three biggest energy consumers in Wakefield are the Public Safety Building, Town Hall, and the Civic Center. So this is just a way to kind of knock off some of the electric bill. Kilowatt average between what the solar is supposed to generate and what the building uses. It would net out about 80% of what our electric bill is there.
Hey, Joe,
Yep.
I might be mistaken. Does not the Boys and Girls Club, the pantry, don't they pay their own electric bill over there?
They do, but I think the big thing is the gym is so busy.
Yeah.
And that thing runs. There are people in that building, whether it's pickleball, the Boys and Girls Club, or different things at night. That basically goes from 8 a.m. to 10, 11 o'clock at night every day.
So the question, I guess, is, does your number, when you say that it's one of the top three, does
Yep.
that not include the food pantry?
No, because
Oh.
no, they would have their own.
All right, so that answers my question then. Okay, no problem.
Sorry about that. I probably
No,
could've
no, no,
explained
sorry.
that better.
I was just, I didn't even know.
Yeah. Let's see. Another thing related to the Civic Center, this came up in our Green Communities application. Knowing that it's a big energies, one of the recommended projects was insulation and door sweeps. This number is a placeholder. This looks super high to me. I think this is going to be much less than half. So expect that to change the next time you see this. These new, so probably for you, Sam. So T2, T1, all these different things in here. This is just referencing the school department's letter and how they kind of prioritize this stuff. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, but they're going to propose when they come and talk to us about refinishing the gym floor at the Dull Bear School, which, if memory serves me right, is going to be a complete strip, stain, and refinish. They also have this next request in at the Dull Bear for playground rubber resurfacing. So for those of you that might not be familiar with the school, there's two playgrounds here. There's one directly behind the school that's hidden from the street. You can't see it. That's going to be under construction as soon as we take delivery and coordinate it with the school department to replace that one. This is referring to the second playground that you can see from Vernon Street. I'll let Tim speak to that a little bit more. They're looking to replace some VCT floors at the Doyle. And then I believe this door right here that they reference at the Doyle, the side entrance, they did some work there. They had to retrofit a kitchen into that because of the occupancy. But I think the one thing that he couldn't do that he needs to do is replace the side door, which accesses some of the work that they did, but in a capacity that's ADA compliant.
Is it, that side entrance matter, they're talking about snow getting in, as I recall. Is that doing any damage to the new work, to the work that's been done already?
I can't speak for him. I
Damage?
don't know. I don't think so. I think more so probably what he's gonna comment to is that there's a little bit of a lip at the threshold, so they're probably looking to get that flush so they can wheel into it
I
if
see.
they have to.
Okay,
I don't know all the particulars, like he'll definitely be covering that the next time we get together.
good.
So the North Ave building of the DPW, we're actually looking for 2 garage doors. These are the big ones in our fleet bays. They're basically, like slinkies after, so many times up and down, they're starting to stretch out and getting warped out. So we're looking to try to replace those. This Modine heater, the next line is the same thing, same space. This is something we've had on for a couple of years. We've punted out, bringing it back because we haven't done anything with it yet. And then the last piece to that is the electrical service to that building needs to get upgraded so it doesn't cause us reliability issues. The Galvin, this is another, I think this is a school department request that I missed the priority, but card access for the elevators. And then we've seen this next one, the heater at the loading dock. This is basically the rear of the school that faces the DPW building. I think there's some uninsulated, unheated space there that some of his custodians work out of. Moving to the Greenwood, the capital Wakefield where Phil lives. We've identified some stuff. My group identified some stuff on the Greenwood School, really the trim and the columns. So this will be the main street side facing it. That's going to get replaced and buffed up. They threw painting in here. I know the group does not think painting is a capital expense. We tend to
It
throw
is.
this in just
It
to
is.
show that it's highlighted and we want to do it.
I know, you gotta take those out, right?
Because it's operating, we take it out. We're just
Rotted
choosing-
trim, I feel like you should take that 8 and put it to rotted trim, because that building, I did feel like I used to live at that school. You weren't joking too far. I was there all the time, but there's a lot of trim around those entrances that are in rough shape. I feel you'll need money for that more than 10, but you know best, or Mr. Larry, whoever's working there.
I will talk to my guys in the morning and find out.
Yeah.
I'll just leave that as a note though. Okay, the last thing with that is they have some VCT floors, probably some 9x9 asbestos tile, I would imagine, in the basement that they want to pull up and get out of there. Continuing on, so PSB, Public Safety Building. This is for the fire side. The bunk room floor, I believe this was on last year and it got deferred. That floor sees a heck of a lot of traffic and starting to show its age. In the apparatus bay there, there is a door that goes from where their vehicles park into, I don't know if it's habited space as far as the bunks are concerned, but offices. We need to put a fire rated door in there because the one that's there is not up to where it needs to be. Next thing there is a bathroom upgrade. By upgrade, we mean basically just a refresh of the whole thing. New dividers, sinks, toilets, things like that. This one is original to the first, well, it's just maybe 3 editions ago when they built the fire station there. So this goes back to the early 2000s, and it's basically stayed the same way. And then this is another one, stairwell paint. So this will come out because it's an operating thing, but this was one of the things, Phil, you'll probably remember, this was in the punch list that was, left over when they divided up, what else could be done with the
Yeah,
bunk they had.
bunk rooms were on that list too. We
Yeah.
couldn't get it. We didn't have enough money to get to it. We're gonna try with that budget from that renovation project.
Yeah, so it's back here. I mean, it's all up. The chief can. These all came from my group. I know the chief can obviously speak to it too, and then we'll talk to it in a little bit more detail as we go. The next one down. So this is actually from the fire department. It was in their letter. They're looking for safety curtains for the doors. Basically, just the cat's eyes, so that if someone's in the doorway, it won't continue to come down. This would be for the Greenwood Fire Station and the main fire station up at Union Street.
There may not be a choice on that one, because he says in his letter that it's an OSHA. Apparently it's an OSHA violation not to have those things.
I mean, he'd be the guy. Related to the senior center, so we identified some roof on the parapet. I don't have a price to this. I don't know what exactly this is going to be, so this is kind of to be determined. Similar to what we were talking about with the fire station. So what I call the first floor, but I guess is actually the basement. When you walk in the back door with a function space, spaces, there's a bathroom down there we'd like to totally redo if we can. And then in that corner of the building, there's also some seepage, some effervescence around the foundation that we'll try to look to see if we can waterproof. Let's see, town hall, the carpets referenced here will be to complete the third floor, excuse me, up where like the town administrator's offices. We've done a couple of the offices up there the last 2 years, or over the last 3 years. This would be to finish that floor. In the basement of town hall right now is basically just painted concrete. And one of the things that happens every year is this traffic wears the paint away. We're always repainting it. So our group was looking to see if they could epoxy the floor. So it's a little bit more hardy than the paint. There's some trim that needs to be replaced here. Most of it's on the Lafayette Street side, up and around the columns. Similar to the senior center, a little bit different foundation repair. So if you look at the foundation of Town Hall, there's some old fieldstone, there's some brick sections, there's some concrete. This is mostly on what we would call the north side, so facing the lake. Be some repointing and different things like that, patching in some things completely correctly where there may have been a penetration that's been abandoned and whatnot. The one I have highlighted here, elevator controls. I try to be very neutral with this whole thing, but I have to say, out of a lot of the things on this, what these are is the controls for the elevator, the fire alarm call box, everything. Just before we started, we got notification from the elevator company and during our inspection that basically said if we don't upgrade the controls, they're going to shut the elevator down. So we're kind of in between a rock and a hard place with that. And I'm not
How
going to
old-
say, I'm not
How
going to
old's
say
the
it's an
elevator,
abs-
Joe? How old's that elevator?
They did a community block grant to put that in, I think in the 90s. I don't know how old like the carriage and everything is off the top of my head. Chris would know.
No, the controls are right. So the controls are a little over 30 years old.
Oh yeah, they might be. You know what I'll do, Phil? I can send it the quote to you from Atlantic, but I think they're whatever was there when they bought it. And
Yeah, so you got to do a modernization basically. So,
correct. And according to them, what we have isn't going to work.
right.
There's no way to retrofit it without pulling the brain out of the thing and replacing it.
Yeah,
So,
you replace everything but the cab and the finishes. So,
pretty much, yeah. This will come with new, whatever you call the sensors in it and all that. The call out will all be different and upgraded. But yeah, that wasn't an awesome one to see. But I guess in the grand scheme of things, it could have been worse.
so your yellow means you don't want to see it go.
So the alternative to it is, and not to take like a scare tactic to this, but the alternative to it is if we can't figure out a way to fund it, then they're just gonna tell us, do we have to shut it down? And then you'll lose, the ability to get anybody up to the upper floors of this building that might be, mobility challenged.
And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe at this point, it's like every 100 uses, it shuts down anyways, and you have to call someone in. Is
It's-
that accurate?
It's triggered, those things are
triggers
triggered by
that?
trips. I don't know if it's 100 off the top of my head, but after a certain amount of trips,
Yes.
it'll put itself into, almost like a safe mode.
Yeah. And you
And-
got to call service people in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there's a certain amount, I thought. Yeah.
Let's see, Vinton Street. This is actually at Vernal Field. Behind right field, there's a little building there. It used to be storage. It ended up becoming kind of an ad hoc fire alarm shop, electrical shop, miscellaneous things. So anything that there wasn't room for anywhere else kind of went there. We find ourselves working out of it more often. So look to see if they could insulate that because the walls and the rafters and the roof are paper thin. Our group identified a rooftop AC unit at the Walton School that we should be thinking about. Gym light replacement at the Woodville. And then these things here at the Ewell, these are all old. They come up all the time in town. We don't have anything on the town side that is either heated by oil. Everything's either natural gas or electric. The Ewell School being the last holdout to that. There still are oil burners in there, but right now that's part of the lease agreement that SEAM is under for that building. So, if they're leasing it, and that's part of their gig for what they're using it for. They work. There's no issue with them. But if the town were to take that and end up, changing the use, using it for another elementary school or something like that, we'd look to do it. For right now, I just leave it blank. I don't think we need to be in there. And then Mike, our HVAC mechanic, also recommended that a couple of the unit vents in there, they're probably, 35 years old, 40 years old at this point, get replaced, but they're working, they can keep them working, so there's no sense right now for the immediate need. And then the last line here, the asbestos removal. This is be to abate the asbestos in and around the boiler room. We're not gonna end up recommending anything get done, so we're gonna take that out of this list now.
Who's gonna do it then?
There's nothing wrong with it. That would be in the event that, we were to replace the boilers, we would have to abate the asbestos first. So it's just another part of that, what that project would have been.
Are
But
we in the world where if you don't touch it, there's not a problem?
I believe that's the case. Yep.
Okay.
Like my old Oldsmobile was the same way. Just let it leak oil, leave it alone. I just remembered, Frank, Leon, did you ever hear back from that Energy Commission about a meeting? I had responded with some dates. Remember, they wanted to talk about energy and some of the school asks. I know I never heard back. I'm going to send an email just asking, but you hadn't heard anything, had you, Frank? Oh, Frank's walking around. He's on mute.
I think there was a discussion about that. You're probably on the same email chain that I am.
Just when schools come in on the 5th, it would be great. I don't know if they had met already or not. So I'll send an email. It was Karamara. I'll send an email back and just say, hey, was this ever scheduled? Because I think that they wanted to discuss energy efficiency options when it comes to some of these asks. So, but I don't know. I don't really know what the true agenda is, in all honesty. It was something like that. So
that meeting is Wednesday the 6th.
oh, it's already scheduled. That's
Yeah,
nice.
so I think it's going to be a walkthrough, and what they're looking to do is to get everybody who has some sort of fingerprints on anything like that, and seeing how they can leverage green communities to try to upgrade something that might need to be upgraded, and then B, if we can upgrade it with something that's as energy efficient as it can be. So it's kind of more of like a planning logistics thing.
Got it.
I can
Okay.
forward it to you though if you're interested.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll take a look. Thanks.
All right, FPC, so Field Park Cemetery. At the cemetery, truth be told, the garage there is probably gotten the least amount of attention out of anything in town in the last 30 years. Some of the overgrowth and things like that on the garage building itself, which is where we store all of our stuff, starting to show its age and certainly full of rot. So the awnings need to come off. There's exterior trim and different pieces that have to get pulled out because they're no longer usable. They're super punky. And then the roof of the building, believe it or not, actually has to get replaced. Nobody knows the original date. It could be original to when they moved it there, which is going back to the early 90s at best. Included something here, the cremation garden. We've seen this one before. Short answer, space is becoming a little bit of an issue. Not so much in the immediate, but long term, we have to start thinking about that. The ability to go out back and do an expansion. Everything out there is wet. There's some wetlands to contend with that will make it, infinitely harder to do. So the idea came up to put a, cremation type garden or section into that. And essentially what that would be is, as you go past the tomb and the garage that we have, there's a plot of land on the left-hand side, relatively small, maybe fit 100, 150 full depth burials. You could fit about 4,000 cremations in that. Seems to be more popular option that people are exercising, instead of your traditional old school funeral burials. So, it's something that if we can make it attractive enough, maybe people be, driven to that, and it could save us some space and whatnot. up in Landrigan Field, a couple things related to the team room. As far as the renovation, so the dividers of the bathrooms, the sinks, the toilets and things like that, they were probably, 20 years old when Frank was up there playing. I know that they weren't changed when I was, and they've probably been the same, the whole time that that thing's been vertical. So we're looking to see if we could do a little work for the kids up there. There's heat in there. There's no cooling or anything like that. So if we're gonna do that, we'd look to see if we could put mini splits in each side. That way there's some sort of temperature control. And then the same thing there, very similar to what I mentioned with the floor at Town Hall. So the kids and the cleats and the paint, it's not only a maintenance thing for us, but it could get pretty slippery. And they're sliding around and whatnot. So we're looking to see if it at all possible, if there's a way to do, if we could epoxy the floor and make it something that's a little bit easier for them moving around. Kind of staying in that area, the Dobbins tennis courts.
Hey, Joe,
Yep,
sorry, what heats the locker rooms now up there?
I think it's electric baseboard.
Oh, that,
I'd
okay.
have to confirm that.
So basically it's an operational cost, the electricity?
Yeah, I know there's a meter socket and a pole off of the front corner of it.
Okay,
Um,
because in the winter, they're pretty warm. I never knew how they got heated. In the summer, I don't know how much they used to actually to warrant AC, but
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so if they're gonna change the heat in it and make
Yeah.
it more energy efficient, I think the difference between a heat only unit or a cooling only unit is marginal at that point. So might
Oh,
as well
yeah.
do both.
it's minimal. Oh yeah, and you'll definitely save money with the mini splits. That's right. If you're paying $1,000 a month to heat them in October and November, then in the long run, it's worth it. I was just wondering how they were heated. Because they're definitely warm during the October and November months. They're warm in there. I just didn't know if it was like a gas fired Modine heater or if it was electric.
There are modines in that, but I think the baseboards in there are electric.
Yeah.
Actually, Chris or James can tell you first thing in the morning. I just don't know off the top of
Yeah.
my head.
No problem.
So the Dobbins tennis courts, this was put on, this was brought to our attention by ours, I mean, Public Works, to Dennis Fazio and myself, by some of the gentlemen that play tennis down there. Basically, what's happening is since these were constructed in 2013, some of the seams from when they paved are settling. You're starting to see some of the cracks come up and bleed through. Excuse me. We had a vendor out there. They don't think the whole thing needs to be resurfaced, but the cracks have to be filled. And when you fill the cracks, you have to reline it. So that would be to do everything there. Molten Field. This is something that softball reached out to us about. So they're thinking about putting some fencing up, some outfield fencing and a batting cage. Excuse me. At the Doyle playground surfacing. This is something that we actually had originally gotten a grant for, and that should be constructed this spring. This $35,000 is because we were a little short to go the full surfacing that was desired initially. So we have to dial it back, or this would be to fund the rest of the completion to that. Spalding Street, Dennis, Fazio, and my group. So there's 4 benches down there that are getting past the point where he can repair them. Some of the cast iron is starting to get to the point where they can't Mickey Mouse it and bubble gum it back together. So this would be to replace those. And then this Maple Way softball field, same thing. So they're looking to do outfield fencing, batting cages, and different things for the kids down there.
Where you guys put in, there's already a fence on the outfields on the bigger diamond at Maple Way. What outfield fence are they putting in, Frank, you know?
Yeah, I do. So Joe, you gotta excuse me. Some of my questions are just gonna be for the group, and even if I may know some of the answers, it's better
Cool.
coming from you.
No, go ahead. So Dennis was out with them today.
Yeah.
I had something else that I couldn't be there, but
So the Maple Way fence, that's a temporary fence that was purchased by the Little League. Because the town didn't want a permanent fence there, so they could use it for soccer over the years. And I've been out of it for a couple of years, and so I don't know if the town has allowed the permanent fence to be put in. If Dennis has said, yeah, we don't need it for soccer anymore, like they did at Narcella. That Narcella used to be used for soccer as well. And then because of all the extra soccer fields and turf fields, baseball got permission to put permanent fencing there. Because soccer didn't need anymore. So the Maple Way issue is a little bit different because the two fields are closer than the Nassau one. So if you put a permanent fence at the front Maple Way field, you're limiting the back Maple Way field. So it was always a temporary fence, so it could be moved for that field and for soccer if they had to take it down. And we used to pay someone to take it up and down every winter and every spring. We always threw it out there to have the backfield at Maple Way pushed back so you could have two full fields there. But that now you're talking a couple $100,000 as opposed to, $50,000 or $70,000. That's the gist of it. It looks like from reading this, I don't know anything about it. They want a batting cage and an outfield fence. 100,000 seems a little extreme. That sounds like they want to do a lot more from my experience. If they put a fence up, you're talking $25,000 for that, but then they're limiting their back minor league field to like 100 feet before it hits the fence. So they're really going to have nothing. They're probably looking to move their home plate back a little bit too, but I don't know. I haven't talked to Dennis about this in a while.
The home plate of the bigger diamond,
No, the home plate of the rear diamond.
of the small
big
one. Where are they
diamonds-
gonna go? There's a big tree there. And mosquitoes. That's where all the mosquitoes live, is behind home plate. That time.
Well, exactly. They'd have to you're talking a couple $100,000 of field renovations to make those two full fields. So right now, the first field it's recognized, it's certified by the league. Everything about it is good with the fence. It's the backfield that's used by the minor leagues that is just a field. It's just basically a pile of dirt that they use. That's not regulation. So
Okay.
they're probably looking for that 100,000. That's a lot to throw in it. They don't need it. They don't need a batting cage on both fields, on Moulton and Maple Way. They're just reaching right now. They're hoping we're going to say something for something.
Is this DPW? Whose court is this, or is this in
The
school?
Parks Department, right?
Parks, like,
Yes.
is they a group? We never hear from the Parks Department, but that always just comes through DPW, right, Joe?
Yeah, so usually I cover that. Like I said, Dennis Fazio was out with them today.
Yeah.
So I might ask him to tag in with me next week, and he can run you through that and kind of go over it. I agree with Frank. This number was probably subject to reduce quite substantially, maybe. Not 100% sure. I'll know first thing in the morning what exactly the scope is, and then this group will get filled in next week as soon as that's
Oh,
known.
I'm just gonna give an immediate reaction. Is high school as of March, the Beasley's going away, and that is a huge field for youth soccer. They set up a ton of little fields, and they're losing that for the next 4 years. So this may not be the year to take away an option of having additional fields for youth sports during the high school construction if they can wait. It's something to consider. I'm just bringing it up because that field, we have track is, I think, practicing at New Balance is where they're going to be running. Everyone, with the loss of Beasley in the softball field, any space to move these, town sports is going to be needed for the next 3-4 years. So it's just something to consider when we're, I think, thinking about any park sort of ass like this, I think. So.
Phil, just to weigh in on that. Yeah, 100%. This is the wrong time for them to be asking. I mean, the softball league is relatively new to the town, so they're just getting their feet wet, and then they're asking for everything. They used to be affiliated with the Little League, but they split up, so now they're asking for their own things, which is fine, which is great. It's just not gonna be the right time because quite frankly, yeah, Molten's gonna be probably needed for soccer games, soccer things.
Yeah,
Um,
I
so-
think, yeah, they're just gonna talk to all both of my girls are in that softball league, so we spent a lot of time there. So I support any upgrades to any of our surfaces and stuff and playgrounds. And it's just with the timing of the high school, I think because I think everyone's gonna be scrambling, looking for practice space and game space, right? Like people are gonna be, all sports are gonna be all over the place for a while. So, okay, cool. Thanks.
So, for miscellaneous stuff, this doesn't really, kind of those odds and ends that don't fit into what we were talking about earlier. So, PSB, Public Safety Building, this is 1 Union Street. Sidewalks and ADA ramps. So essentially, if you walk around that building anywhere, where there's a tree right now, the sidewalks are heaved, patched, replaced, changed. Now that the construction of the addition is done, it makes sense to come in and replace all that now. We've kind of worked your way from the inside out. There are a couple places where we'd look to add ramps and tectonic plates or the rumble plates and so forth. That'll cover basically 360 of that building. Then the other thing we're looking to see, if possible, is a new floor machine for that building for the custodians that are there. The library, in their letter, Catherine will be here on the 12th, so they're looking to replace their rear driveway. Then the other thing they're looking to do is reset and remortar, refinish, completely rebuild their front stairs at the plaza. I know Steve is working on some stuff for this too. So this will be something that we'll have to pay attention to kind of as we work through this. Fire alarm, this came from Captain Hudson. So he's got a couple of loop detection systems related to traffic that he's looking to see if he can replace. Main and North Ave at Prospect. And then there's another one at the corner by the heads of the rail trail at Vernon and Water Street. I think if the truth be told, we already have this one captured in the state-funded project that is going to pave and build the trail. But we will confirm that, and then we will discuss this in more detail. He will be here with Chief Sullivan. The next one, this came from my group in buildings and engineering. If you can remember, we did an ADA transition study throughout town and throughout public buildings. So basically what we did was we had some help come in on the architectural side to go over all the door pulls, all the door actuators, ramps, whatnot in the buildings. And then we looked at a whole bunch of accessibility and egress things, on the hardscape side, on the outside of the buildings. This request is just a placeholder, a starter, to try to work through some of the punch lists from that report. The next,
I have a question, please.
shoot,
With regard to the Albion Cultural Exchange, that building doesn't have any ADA access to it. And I know that the last time we spoke, there was some discussion about the new property owner allowing some kind of easement by the back.
Yep.
Has there been any further discussion on that?
I don't know what the final outcome of that is. I do know that, so there's two interests there. We had the interest from the DPW side. There was an access easement through the back of that. And then I know the gas and light department also had interest in maintaining that too, because they had some underground stuff that they needed, I believe, for a transformer that needed to sit back there. I haven't heard anything that said that that wasn't the case anymore. That's certainly the preferred route. If we were to do that in the front of the building, we'd have to come out into the sidewalks, probably lose the parking spaces in front of the building to make the ramp fit in such a way that the grades made sense. So I have not heard that that's not going to be the case. I will find that out for you, Frank, though, and I will let you know the next time we get together.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Big one here, so fueling station. So if you drive by our building at North Ave, smack dab in the middle of the parking lot, there's 2 above ground storage tanks, and a gas island. In 2024, these are at the end of their 30-year warranty, so we need to replace them. One of the challenges with that is that we have to dig underground, and there's an activity use limitation on the property because of spill. So we know that we have to dig through some contaminated stuff, and we have to get rid of it, making the price pretty high. One of the things we've found out, we talked about this last year, we kicked the tires on it. Now we're moving ahead at a little bit more direct, targeted replacement for this. But one of the things we found out is we do have a couple of options to actually move this to Nahant Street, which will save us somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000. So this is actually coming out of this. And when my group goes to town meeting, we're going to ask for the design money because we need to design some of the underground components, whether it be piles or grade beams or whatnot, so the tanks don't sink, and then come up with the best place for it so we can build this the cheapest that we can. This for services public works, fire, police, light department, basically anything owned by the town or any subsidy of the town that gets fuel can get it here. Someone had asked me just recently why we don't just use a random gas station in town. We pay wholesale rate for fuel, so if we weren't to be able to utilize that, we'd be paying whatever the market rate is. So there'd be a little bit of a cost increase there. And then presently, it will change, but it has been this way forever. There's also no diesel fuel currently available in town. So you can imagine like the fire department would have to go to either Reading or somewhere probably in Saugus, because I don't think there's any in Linfield either, to get diesel fuel. So that's something that I'm sure is not going to be preferred. So we want to keep that in-house.
So you're gonna go to town meeting with this?
I'm going to town meeting. I have a warrant article coming up for the design, the geotech work, all the underground stuff. That way I know exactly what we're going to be dealing with, and I can give you, an accurate, spot on price. I need to do a little bit of due diligence, under the ground, before, we know exactly where we're going to land.
Well, what was the 2.6 million? That's more than just design, isn't it?
That's the build. Yeah. That's
That's
everything.
built, right?
Yeah, so we ended up having the tank company come down, walk with us through our site. Then we walked them through a couple other places. And basically on their recommendation was that, if we didn't have to dig it through some of the gross stuff that we know exists where it presently is, there's certainly the chance to save quite a bit of money. So we're going to turn over every one of those stones and come up with, the most advantageous location, construction costs that we can get.
So it's the present site plus Nahant.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And then lastly in this, the Walton School. So this is the play area. If anybody's been back there, so this group funded a new playground. We were all set to build it. We demoed the existing playground, and we got approached by the school and the PTO about actually moving the orientation of it, because the layout of the school is a little funky. When they line up in the morning, they were using like a makeshift alleyway. It was chopped up kind of weird. So they actually were able to pull together something between my group and the school department where we slid the playground over a touch. They got a new paved area. The basketball court ended up getting redone in it. And it came up with a much better use for the school. This is something Tim is going to present on. This is basically the third piece to that back area. They're looking to kind of touch that off and finish that project. In IT, so I mentioned this townwide time and attendance. This will be a townwide thing that we'll get into and talk to. And this is to get everybody on the same time management software. For my group, we're actually exploring getting a new work order system. Currently, the system that we use has been acquired. They've been bought out by someone else. One of the pain points that we have in it, at the expense of sounding like a broken record, you've heard me say that we're trying to build out our GIS layers and get everything that we used to have on paper in the basement of Town Hall digital. One of the things one of the things with our work order system now, the way it's created is if we change an asset out in the street, whether we update a hydrant, we plant a tree, anything like that, it doesn't speak directly into how we catalog those and record them digitally where we update it. So it creates an extra step that if someone isn't aware of that's happening, has the potential to miss it. So we're looking to integrate a work order system directly into that, where essentially, if I was to replace a hydrant, for example, or add a hydrant, my work order would create a draft and it would show it updated into our record of all of our water mains and hydrants. And then our staff person in-house that manages that would review that, QA, QC it, and they would be able to automatically update it if all the fields were correct. So it'd take out an extra step, and then it would eliminate some of the things that may be getting missed or have the potential to get missed from happening. And I could go into a little bit, I can go into a lot more detail on this when the time comes. And then the school department, so this, I think Tim addressed in pretty decent detail in his letter, the camera systems. I think this came from, I know the high school's getting this brand of camera system, and he's looking to kind of similar to what the time and attendance software goal was, is to get everything kind of on one platform that, you know, you only need to learn one thing. I'm not 100% clear on what this does and does not cover, but I'm sure he'll be able to go at length about this when the time comes. So that is everything at this point that comes from the tax levy. I could touch on water and sewer super quick, or if we want to stop and the committee wants to talk or do whatever you want to do.
Can you just briefly explain why water and sewer are below the main line, and why it doesn't factor into our total, like the
Absolutely.
8.9 is the number right now we're looking at, but then there's two numbers that really don't. How do we know these budgets are accurate? You know, I mean, we have the money for this stuff, I guess, not accurate.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is sewer and water. They're two totally separate enterprises. So think of them as like piggy banks. You have one that's funded from tax, one that's funded from the sewer rate, and one that is funded from the water rate. So anything related to sewer comes out of either retained earnings or receipts in the sewer enterprise. Same thing for water. So this is all something that falls in my group. These are something, so I know when we certified a retained earnings last year, we were around 1.1 million in water and around $900,000 in sewer. So this is something that's generated out of that. When we come forward with our budgets this year on it, the ask is super low. And really the only thing that we're trying to do this year, we have a lot of work that's still going on related to water mains and things like that. And the MWA has been, you know, funding those grant loans that you've heard me talk about, where you get $1 million worth of construction for $250,000 worth of a payment. So that's been super beneficial. So we have a lot of that. We have a lot of that still going on. We don't need to add any more in quite yet. One of the things that we do have to do is these vehicles sit outside. They're exposed to the weather right next to Crystal Lake. So we have a backhoe that we bought in 2013 that's starting to show its age. The hydraulic lines on it are pretty tired. And that thing is basically what goes out anytime there's a problem. So we're looking to replace that. And then another example of what I was talking about with those trucks and the electrical issues. We have one that's been giving us a little bit of a headache in the enterprises. That thing is a 2013 as well. So it's about 11 years old. Everything that these machines do, this is a very hard life. They don't have it easy. But they also do everything related to utility replacement, construction work in that regard, and plow snow for us too. And
Joe,
then
excuse me a second, where does the surplus go for each of these? You mentioned, retained earnings. It sounds like you've exceeded your earnings are bigger than what you're putting out here.
so think about, yeah, they are. So think about, it's all nomenclature. So think retained earnings is free cash. So it's whatever you have in a reserve.
Yep.
we just call it retained earnings. Is that what someone called it a while ago, and it just stuck. So any of these appropriations would either come out of that or they would come out of receipts. We try to maintain both enterprises to have a reserve fund available to us with somewhere between 8 and 12% of our operating budget. Right now, I think we're right around 10 and a half in both of them. So we're in a comfortable place.
Okay,
What the rates basically fund every year is, the operational costs and then capital. And this is just some of the capital for
Sure.
this year. And then
Okay,
related to
thank you.
system improvements on both sides. So this is something that we pull out a little bit of money every year when we're doing I'll use sewer. We're doing our main investigations. We camera them and then we line them from the inside structurally. Every once in a while, you'll run into a spot that you can't do that. You have to dig it and fix it. So each year we get between 6 and 8 spots where we have to go out and do that. So system improvements covers that. It would also cover, God forbid, we needed to buy a pump or something like that. We have the means to be able to do some of that. On the water side, system improvements, skates, hydrants, different things like that. We tend to buy hydrants 6 or 8 at a time. We have them in stock. We'll replace them as we pave or as they go out of service for whatever reason. This is just to make sure that we can keep up with that. And then in water, we have some money shown for water mains too. This will all be subject to change here though, because I'm getting better numbers on some of the pricing here. So I would expect this to look a little bit different next time. That's kind of all that.
You have a plan for that 500?
Yeah, so believe it or not, you'll see a warrant article for this too. So Main Street from Salem Street to Lowell Street, Aborn Ave,
Yeah,
Emerson Street. I think there's a section of Gould Street we want to do, and then depending on what the budget will allow us to do, we have a couple other spots that we know we have to do. So we've been working through. When I was appointed and our town engineer were appointed, we did a new capital plan to figure out, a couple things. We're looking for pressure ratings through town, fire flows through the hydrants, and then composition of material of the pipe. Really, unless we have a fire flow, deficiency or a pressure issue, we're attacking cast iron. So those pipes, put in somewhere between the 30s and 60s. They're old. It's time. So those are all coming out with relation to Main Street. Break history. Anybody that's been there sees all the patches in it. It's just not going to hold together any longer. We're also going to be doing a substantial amount of drain work and sidewalk work there. So we want to make sure that everything underground's done by the time we roll the pavement over it, that we don't have to come back and think about that.
So does that include the sewer work that you do? Like when you dig up and put a water main in, do you do anything with the waste lines in the street?
Yeah, so the sewer is actually easier, unless it's forced where it's pressurized. We can actually do the sewer. You essentially sleeve it with a cast, and they use steam, and you can line the pipe from the inside, sort of like how they're doing laterals to homes now. So we could do that, and then the MWA funds it, most of it for us. So we could do structural replacement and rehabilitations of that just by going manhole to manhole. So sewer, I believe, is much less invasive than what a water main is. You got to dig the water main out and fix it for the most part. So every once in a while, we tend to do that in the wintertime because, the paving, all the road work, the gas department's done doing their stuff, and we can kind of be out there. We don't have to worry about competing for traffic and things like that. You might see a bunch of cones set up around a manhole, and there might be steam coming out of it. That's what that's doing.
Yep.
So that program functions ahead of all the other road work in towns. We literally start at the bottom and work up.
Do you use the work order system for your water for hydrant maintenance? Like how do you keep track of maintenance for these divisions?
Right now, we use the work order system that we have, but what we want to do is go to, if we have a hydrant at 1 Lafayette Street, I can see when that might have been worked on. What I don't see is inspections and things like that. Want to get to is that every time somebody visits, it's all cataloged in one place.
Yeah, scan
So
it and, yeah,
yeah, and it's just written right into it. So you click on an asset at 1 Lafayette Street, I can see the hydrant out here. I can see who looked at it. I can see who inspected it before the winter. I can see the whole life of the thing, when it was installed, you name it. Now it sits in a couple of different places. So we're trying to tie all that to one spot. So literally at your fingertips, you have everything you need. And then the other thing that it does, which is pretty slick, is it uses longitude and latitude on it. So, as far as accuracy is finding something, it's all GPSed. So we used to be able to get you, somewhere within like a 100 by 100 square, we knew that there was an asset around, or, probably a little smaller. Now we can get you into like a 4x8 sheet of plywood and say, what you're looking for is here. So you can imagine the time and things like that you can potentially save. Imagine a snow-covered road looking for gates. That could be a little interesting.
so what percentage of your ask above can soil and water take up is my question now. Can we take some of that 350 out and put it in the divisions? Do you have money there?
I can look at that before we come back. Sure.
If they're using it, we could make an argument, whatever percentage of the total, and take a little bit out of the hit up above.
Sure.
A new work order system is going to make your life so much easier.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I think that's so important. It's great to see it on the list.
Well, it'd be selfishly, it'd be nice just for all of it to talk and all of it to be integrated into the record drawing of whatever it is,
So am I to understand that you could take resources from the water division and apply them to the sewer?
No.
Okay,
No, what Phil's saying is if we're gonna use the work order system for some of the things we do in water and sewer, should they be contributing to that price?
oh,
I
I,
don't know.
I see, okay.
Yeah. Just split up if it's possible. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
asking. Yeah.
Totally.
The playgrounds, thanks for going through all that. You're an encyclopedia. The playgrounds we were doing, Frank, you remember, right? Was this the last year of playgrounds? Like, are we, or Joe, whoever would know best, but I think we were doing like one a year. But are we at that pace, or are we ahead, or?
It wasn't, I don't think we're at the last year. Obviously the Doyle School got, their playground done through a grant.
The
So
grant,
that saved
right?
that one. And I think, right now I'm off the top of my head. I think we have one more playground at Dahlbeer. And if we went one further step, Joe, correct me, I think we have Nacella.
Yeah.
What else would be open besides Dahlbeer and Nacella for playgrounds?
So keep in mind, out of the two at the Dahlberg, we have one that's gonna be, as soon as it shows up,
Yeah, it's already approved.
yeah, we'll be working with them on that. The tough part with that one is that playground's literally right up against some of the school windows.
Yeah,
So to be banging around there the last week of school, it'll probably end up happening sometime after school gets out. But
well, I thought Phil was talking about upcoming, what we have to still need to approve. We
So they
already
haven't-
approved that one.
they have another one there. I think that's in pretty good shape. I don't think that one's too old.
Okay,
Um,
but otherwise we did Woodville, we did Greenwood. We did, Doyle's done.
there's a small one at Nacella.
We don't even need, not Nacella is just an afterthought, but that would be the last one we did.
Yeah, all the ones by the lake are pretty new.
Yeah.
WCNA did those. Sullivan Field, I think, is a little older, but still in good shape. Maple Way's new, JJ Round's new, Moulton's new. And when I say new, it was within my tenure at
Yeah.
Town Hall.
No, they're definitely good. I'm thinking like, Phil, like literally schools. So I think Dahlbeer, and Dahlbeer is the only one with actually two playgrounds. So they're kind of spoiled. A younger playground and an older playground, but otherwise every other school I think has been redone in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, you have one at the Greenwood, the Woodville,
Yep.
the Walton.
Yeah.
The Doyle will be happening, the
Yeah.
Dalton will be happening. Yeah, I think the
So that's
only,
it. Yeah. So yeah, Phil, to answer your question, we're pretty much there.
Yep, good. Does anyone have any questions? Want to look at anything again tonight? Just doing, not, just time check, it's 8:17, but, is there anything we want to look at up above and talk about that you heard that you're, wanna-
I just wanna, Joe, the email I sent you first, I apologize for I didn't realize that this Excel sheet was all of the, like, the requests. I thought this was the thing from the previous meeting. Where you
oh,
were
no
telling
worries.
us the status of the other projects. I was like,
status.
okay, good to have that. That's why I asked for, because we talked about last time, oh, we have maybe 2.2 million that we'd be able to work with. And I was like, well, if you do police, all of the fire, the school, and the library, that's like 2.2 million right there. Like that's it. And I was like, that would be everything. So going through this whole list is helpful to realize that there's a lot of other stuff that we need to work through. My question, so if all of the things that are tagged as warrant article, right, question mark,
Yep.
that brings that total, it cuts the total like in half. It brings it down to like 4 million something.
Yeah, so I
Um,
didn't, I'll show you now. I didn't touch the fire truck and I didn't. So that, yeah, yep, 4.5.
Yeah. But my question for that is, let's say we're like, great, we'll just make those warrant articles, and the threshold for that was they were all over 500,000, right?
Yep.
Too big to try to swallow up within all of the other stuff as a threshold, right? What would be the pushback from town council, from finance committee, about how much they're still going to end up taking in terms of budget space, right? Like that these are still going to be on the tax levy, they're just not part of our proposed 2 million, right? We're talking about another 4 in all of this stuff, like over on the other side. So it's just like, what could we get away with asking as a warrant article versus trying to fit within the capital budget $2 million request, right? Like those are my initial thoughts after going through this.
Eventually, the finance committee's got to look at it, but if it's a warrant article, it just comes down to the voters and then they got to find the money, right, Joe?
Yeah, so generally, so like the fuel island piece, I know that Mr. Mayo and Kevin Gill, the town accountant, they're hip to this coming, and obviously they know this is a future consideration. I'm sure the same thing with the chief's fire truck. It's probably not a secret that that's coming, so they're starting to plan for that.
Just
We'll-
get the fuel station to 2.2 and let's call it a day. That will just approve one thing. We'll let everyone know that, listen, we're just gonna build a gas station, guys. Like, sorry.
And then related to this cremation garden thing, so one of the interesting things here that I have to continue to work on, probably at the council level. So there is an option here that I'm gonna probably end up recommending that, as I mentioned earlier, you could fit multiple thousand, you know, spots into this thing. So I think it'd be wise, and I think I'll quote, I think it was David last year who coined this, but there may be the option to do some sort of a pre-sale. So really what we'd be looking for is like an angel investment. Get us constructed and then we'll pre-sale it to return the money back. Something like that. So that's something that we'll try to have to build in as we go, but
I I will say, Joe, that line item has increased almost double, I think more than double in the last 2 years. The first ask was 250, last year was 400, and now it's 550.
Yeah, so if any, I mean, you gotta imagine these things are, all granite.
Yeah.
When you go vertical and horizontally, it's all time and fuel, right? Digging out all the peat and the little things we have to do to make the base, right?
Was it a warrant article last year? Did it become warrant, or what happened? Has it, because it's been asked for 2 years. I know we haven't because it's been a lot of money, and for other reasons too, but it never got to warrant?
No, not there. And it might not this time. It might. I'm not 100% sure quite yet. I'll know within the next week. But it'll be something I would imagine in the next year we'll probably see going. Even if it's, dipping a toe in the water and maybe they make some units there, a little smaller, in like the $2,000 range to kind of see the attractiveness is it, and what type of attention it might get from people and the interest there. I could see something like that happening. We kind of, throw a feeler out for it.
Is this thing operational now, Joe? It's
No,
not, is it? This
No.
is all proposed construction.
yeah, so this would be a cremation only section. Yep.
Okay.
To piggyback on Sam's question, and maybe he was asking, or I missed it, like, so if we say something goes to warrant article, is it town council that would then decide if it becomes a warrant article? Who actually gets it on the warrant for the town to vote on it?
So just use this one. So I would petition or request that this be included on the warrant, and then go through the process, kind of like how this group will go with this. I would have to bring it to the council, and kind of pitch my position on it and justify the ask. And then the same thing to the finance committee. And then if it lands on the warrant and gets voted for, town meeting is the ultimate decision maker on that. So, the fire truck will probably end up going the same route. So it won't go through, Phil, you as the chair won't be the one presenting it. It'll probably be the chief, let's say. But it'll take the same steps as whatever comes out of this exercise.
I forgot about the town meeting presentation till you just mentioned it.
That's all right. I'll fill in if need be.
No, I'm getting a top hat for that, actually. I am going to show up looking like the Monopoly guy. Yeah.
Like you pulled out the Puxatawny Phil.
Yeah, basically.
Mr.
Um, do you have vehicle lists? I think for a couple of years you've been able to pull together some inventory of the different, like the police fire vehicles and ages. I forget what you had on it. And then for your fleet, it would be good to see that, I think, because there's always a lot of vehicles on these lists. And I think that helps us talk about which ones to keep and which ones maybe we might have to push. But do you have anything like that you could share?
Yeah, you want a complete inventory?
If it makes sense, like what's on it? Is it like like it would say 2012 dump with plow? Like, does it have mileage, or does it have like, or is it just a list, like just a straight up make, model, year?
No, so for our stuff here at DPW, I have everything. Hours, mileage, the whole thing. I think I have all that up to date with the police. I might not have it on the fire department side, but at minimum, I can get you make, manufacture, year, and whatnot. And then I probably have to ask Tim to give me a refresh on the school department stuff. But for my stuff, like I could tell you on that, the first one there, the 2012, I could tell you the mileage on it. I could tell you the hours on it, the last visit, you name it.
Right, because I think one year we actually found a school department vehicle that we didn't know about, right? I'll put you on mute. I gotta move. Hold on, I'll be right.
Well, I have a question. Could you, on the spreadsheet, go down to the enterprises again?
Yep.
Could you just give me on that, when you talk about the dump trucks, can you kind of put the year of, what year is that dump truck? Is it 50% and 50, what is 50%? Is it 50% paid for?
No, so that's a good question. So 50%, essentially this truck works, it would do both water work and sewer work. So each enterprise contributes to the price of it.
Okay.
We don't have anything with the exception of the Vector truck that we have that really does like one thing only.
Mhm. Okay,
All of it's multi-purpose.
it's just who pays for it.
Yeah, and it's just split that way, instead of it, hitting one pocket versus the other one, kind of spreads out the hit a little bit.
Members of the committee think those lists are helpful in the inventory of vehicles? Like, is that something worth doing? I know we've asked for it, but like,
Well, yeah, it's especially in the case of the so-called hidden fleets, like the school department and I can't think of anybody else, but it's not always obvious from these lists what there is. Certainly, this is not a list of everything we hold. It's a list of everything we're considering an
Yeah.
expenditure on. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Doesn't the town have like a senior shuttle?
Yep. I'll
I
have the,
haven't seen that kind of request. I mean, I might not be in the cycle.
That was on a couple of years ago.
I think we did one a couple of years ago.
I think the year before you started, Frank, they replaced the bus
Okay,
Yeah,
or the
But-
van.
it's almost like, is there anybody, so it doesn't land just on your shoulders, Joe? Is there anybody that has like a responsibility for a motor pool type responsibility for the town or not? We don't
Uh,
really have that.
Officially, no.
Yeah.
I could tell you if my group services it, we'll have the record on it,
Oh, sure.
which is basically everything. The only thing that we don't service, we can't service one of our trucks because it doesn't fit in the garage. And then the fire trucks, we just don't have the space to get them in.
Sure.
But anything other than that, like all the cruisers come into our place, they all get done there. All of our stuff in-house is there. Council on
That's-
Aging stuff comes to us. I don't have anything on the light department, but they're their own thing.
Sure.
And then I have a good amount of the school department stuff. I don't know if I have all of it, but I can get it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty good. Good. Thank you.
a side question, where do the fire engines get serviced?
I don't know. I think the name of the company is called Greenwood. That'd be a chief question. I'm not 100% sure. If it's something like a light bulb or something like that, and they're in our parking lot getting gas, we'll certainly do whatever we can. As far as if we have to get them up in the air, that's a different animal, and they don't fit in the space that we have. So, I think the name of the company is Greenwood Enterprises.
Yeah,
Frank, the last time we did a COA transport bus was in FY20. So I think it was right before you joined.
yeah.
The ATV, didn't the police ask for that a couple years and we said no, like, is that maybe they have to be outfitted differently that they couldn't share one, but is that something that anyone, or we can ask, I guess, when the fire comes in, but
I
I
think
remember the police asked for one before and they've stopped asking, it seems.
they asked for one. I remember that coming up. That was asked for.
2 years ago, they were talking about it for the parades.
Yeah, that and then the rail to trail was a very
Rail to
hot,
trail.
prominent topic at that point in time.
Mhm.
That's in the state transportation improvement plan for 26. So I guess he had a little bit of time there. I think if I remember right from what the chief had put down in his memo, they were looking at it for things like festivals and stuff downtown and just using it to wiggle in and out of congestion easier than some of the bigger stuff
Sure.
that they have.
And outrun the coyotes on the rail trail.
Okay, yeah, I think, and then you'll get us the lease listing of where we are with the leases.
Yeah,
Because
so I'll give you the
that's
whole breakdown. I didn't
yeah.
include that on the
No.
total aggregate number at the top is right, but I'll show you how it breaks out over the years and when the debt falls off and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Sam, what we've been doing with some of the larger vehicles, maybe hovering under 500, is leasing them. So it goes up above and splits up. So it gives us a little more leverage, but we have to carry it over, obviously, like 5 years of capital requests. So it comes off the bottom. It does count, but it helps. So when I started, the list was like huge, like everything was getting leased. And then over the years, I feel like we've been really good about just buying a lot more vehicles than just trying to lease if possible. But there's still a bunch that makes sense to lease them. So there's usually a tab, and that's what Joe's saying he's going to send out. And it kind of breaks down that whole schedule.
Okay, but if we're agreeing to lease it, we're agreeing to lock in, what is it, 80,000 a year for a dump sand plow thing
Right.
for 5 years. And
Right.
we just know that that's part of our 2.2, 2.5, right? Like
Right.
that's the,
Yep. Like in years past, like right now, it's just a DPW, like all those line items would have 6 figures in them. So it was taking up a huge chunk of the amount of money. So we've gotten a lot of our free, I'd say, money back in trying not to lease. But in some of these, like, just make sense, like that dump for 360, like, so that's where you see those. And we usually, sometimes if we want to do something and don't have the money, we discuss towards the end, I think, like whether or not a lease makes more sense to be able to at least do it.
yeah, it will, at least we can accomplish another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm good.
Frank C,
I'm all set.
Frank L,
I'm good.
Sam?
yeah, I'm good. The only thing I wanted to bring up was that Thursday next week, I don't think I'll be able to make it, but I'll make the Tuesday,
What's that? The March 7th?
March 7th.
That's the night of fire and alarm. Okay. They do get taped. So if you have, you're hard up for some sleep and want to like watch the YouTube, they do post them a few days after these meetings online. So, but we can keep you appraised of anything. We usually just listen, and no huge decisions get made until we all sort of can talk about it. So,
Yeah, just some stuff
yeah.
came up and I realized that I had double booked myself.
Or send some notes. If you read the letters, if you have any questions or something, you can send it and I'll make sure they get asked. Okay.
Yep.
So we got 3-5 school, 3-7 fire, 3-12 library. Joe, I guess we'll just see how time goes in the next two, right? And you can just pick and get yours out however you want over the next couple meetings.
Yeah, I mean, most of what I probably have to say again isn't too much different than probably what I just ran through super fast. So,
Yeah.
um,
I guess your
Yeah.
priorities, we're gonna ask, like everyone else, like the school, like if there's any priorities would be helpful. And you may already have that, like however you want to show it in the margin or whatever. I think it would be, I'm sure you have in your mind what you would prefer to get if you had choices. So what's the idea? I have one last question before we adjourn. Or is there a major town capital plan that's been updated? Like I had one Rick Stinson gave me when I started, and it's a book.
Yeah.
It's in my attic. Like I can't even, my screen's not even big enough on how large this book is. Is there like an online master capital schedule or what's that? Is that on your plate?
so I have the book that you're talking about. I inherited that. So every year when we've concluded, I've kept it up. So I have the latest version. I'll just send to you. And then typically when this is done, I'll use the vehicles, for example. My group will run through it. We have the depreciation tables and things that we try to stick to. But we'll go through it again and then make a decision on, where things sit kind of appropriately for replacement schedule. Then right before we come back and present, which would be like fiscal 26, we'll go through it again one more time. Because there are some things like, some of our stuff that is in excellent shape, that, doesn't really get the beatings as far as the weather, and the demand that, you know, the life expectancy of the machine is 30 years. So even though, you know, you'd think you might depreciate it to 0 or something like that in 15, we're consciously pushing it out because it's in great shape and there's no signs of it, you know, giving
Yep.
us any trouble. You know, our truck that goes out and does forestry work's a good example. That thing sees a very small amount of the winter. And what it does very well. It's like a mid-90s GMC, but it's in fantastic shape. It's lived inside its whole life. So based on its age, you would think that you would probably want to replace it, but based on its conditions, we're constantly bumping that one out. So I
Yeah.
have all that stuff. I'll send it.
Yeah, I
You
don't know
can
if
take all
anyone
the-
wanted it. I was just wondering if I figured something existed, but didn't know if it existed digitally in the current years. So
No, you know, that could be something that we could look to move to. I don't know exactly what the platform would be. Right now, it's just a,
I give it to a high school kid to retype it. Like there's got to be some sort of project engineering. Is there a construction track at our high school? Like there's got to be some kids that could put that into some sort of database to give you guys a head start on that because it's got to get digitized, right? Like we can't sustain off paper in the world today.
no, so right now it's digitized in Excel.
You got it in
And
Excel, right? Okay, that's what okay.
That's good
and
enough.
our fleet stuff, so what we use to kind of track the hours, the mileage and everything like that, is actually built into a GPS chip, so it's live.
Okay, yeah.
So that's all, you know, pretty fancy.
I got it. I
tie-in.
thought you said you were still using the book. I was like, okay, like a poor
No,
Joe
no,
sitting
I
with this
could
big book. Like,
I can print you the book if you want, but you could thumb through
I
the
don't want it.
tabs.
I have a copy. Again, I have a
Yeah.
copy. Yeah, so, okay. It's late. Anything else, anyone? Have a motion to adjourn if not?
I move to
I'll-
adjourn.
I'll
Frank,
second.
Frank Al, thanks for your service. And we look forward to seeing you every meeting.
I'll be here.
Okay, man.
Thank
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Good night.